Yes, hello. Who is it?
You there, Mr. Harriet?
Yeah, is that you, Mrs. Burns?
Yes, Mr. Harriet. I brought your morning tea.
Tea?
What time is it?
It's 7:30.
Oh, no. James, tell her we just want to sleep.
Not bad, was it? I mean, after all the trouble she's gone to.
You wake, Mr. Harriet.
You go back to sleep. I'll deal with it.
Mr. Harriet.
Yes. Coming, Mrs. Burns.
Good morning, Mr. Harriet.
It's a very early good morning, isn't it, Mrs. Burns?
There's nothing like a pot of tea to start the day right.
So they say, but you really shouldn't have bothered.
Well, after all that trouble you had getting here, your car broken down, both of you missing your dinner. Now, the least I can do is to make a fuss of you. Isn't that so, Mr. Harriet?
Yes, but we had planned to sleep in late this morning, you see.
Aye, so I thought I'd give you a good lie-in before I woke you up.
Well, that's awfully kind of you, Mrs. Burns.
Sleep well, did you?
Yes, very well, thank you.
And Mrs. Harriet, too, I hope.
Yes, she slept very well, too. Now, if you don't mind...
I spent my own wedding night in that bed. A long time ago, mind.
Fascinating.
Of course, mind you, we didn't have anybody to bring us up cups of tea in the morning, if you understand me.
Oh, yes, we are very fortunate. Now, we better have this while it's still hot, don't you think?
Right you are, Mr. Harriet. You do just that, and leave the rest to me.
Thank you, Mrs. Burns. Your morning tea, Mrs. Harriet?
So I gather. Given the choice, though, I'd have preferred the extra sleep.
Oh, given the choice, Anyway, the tea's here, we're up, so let's make the most of it. How do you feel?
Like someone who's pushed a car across the Yorkshire moors. How do you feel?
Wonderful. You look different, you know.
I do. How?
Well, until yesterday, you were Helen Alderson, a plain, simple country girl. And now this morning, you're transformed into the beautiful, fascinating Mrs. James Harriet.
We are romantic this morning.
Well, it's not every morning I wake to find a new wife in my bed, is it?
I hope not.
Excuse me.
Oh, James, I was enjoying that.
Never mind. You'll enjoy this much more.
You in there, Mr. Harriet?
Yes, I think so, Mrs. Burns. What is it?
Your breakfast ready?
Breakfast? Oh, no.
Aren't you hungry?
Not just now, James.
All right, leave it to me. Oh.
There you are, Mr. Harriet.
Well, that's very kind of you, Mrs. Burns, but
I don't always do breakfast in bed, mind, but, oh, well, with this being your honeymoon, it's only right, isn't it?
Yes. But we weren't quite ready for it, you see.
Not ready for your breakfast. Whatever do you mean, Mr. Harriet?
I mean, we weren't quite ready for so delicious a breakfast. Yes, that's what I mean.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Harriet. It's nice to be appreciated.
Oh, it is, Mrs. Burns. I appreciate it very much.
Mrs. awake, is she?
Yes, just about.
She'll still be in bed, I suppose.
Yes, but this'll soon have her up.
Aye, the poor lassie's tired out, more than likely.
Yes, she is rather.
Aye, well, you know what they say, Mr. Harriet. Treat her right on first night, and marriage will last without a fight.
No, I didn't know that.
Oh, aye. Well, you don't want to let that breakfast get cold now, do you?
No, of course not. Thank you, Mrs. Burns.
Aye. Well, I'd better get downstairs.
Thank you.
Aye.
Well, if you can't beat them, you join them.
I think she feels sorry for us.
So do I. Oh, yeah.
Oh, delicious. Shall we eat, James?
Unless you try and stop me. Oh, I'm sorry, Helen. This isn't quite the honeymoon I'd planned for you.
Oh, it'll be wonderful.
Offering to tuberculin test ministry herds, I must have been mad.
I don't mind what we do, James, so long as I'm with you.
Well, we'd be hard pushed to find times to ourselves, you know.
I'm a vet's wife now. I knew what I was letting myself in for.
You're marvellous.
I'm happy to be with a husband, Lila.
Oh, I love you, Helen.
Again? Little cake.
Yeah. Oh, please, not again.
You in there, Mr. Harriet?
Just about, Mrs. Burns. Won't be a moment.
I thought you'd like a fresh pot of tea with your breakfast.
You read my mind, Mrs. Burns.
Breakfast all right, is
Yes,
it?
fine, perfect.
Mrs. enjoying it too, is she?
Yes, thank you. Perhaps you'd like to come in and ask her yourself.
Oh, no, thank you, Mr. Harriet. You know what they say, two's company and three's a crowd on these occasions, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I think I do, Mrs. Burns.
Oh, and don't bother about bringing down the dishes.
Thank you, Mrs. Burns.
And if you'd like any hot water to freshen up the
Oh, no,
tea-
please, you mustn't bother to come up again.
Oh, it's no trouble, Mr. Harriet.
Oh, but it is. I mean, we've had more than enough of everything as it is already. Thank you, Mrs. Burns.
Well, if you say so.
Yes, I do, Mrs. Burns.
Aye.
James? No messing about.
Busy, I see.
Yes, I'm dealing with my correspondence, actually.
Don't forget there are things to be done before surgery begins, will you?
No, Siegfried, everything's under control.
Damn! Haven't seen that new length of carving rope, have you?
Top left-hand drawer.
What do you mean?
Siegfried, you know my exams are coming up, don't you?
Oh, disgusting mess! Look at it! 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 How is this business to function with things in this state?
What are you looking for?
Stethoscope, stethoscope. What do you think I'm looking for?
Try under your coat.
Coat, which coat?
The coat you have on.
Why, in the Lord's name, didn't you tell me before? Just
You didn't ask.
can't hang around here. I've got a vast amount of work on. I shall be back late, so if anything crops up, you'll have to cope.
Well, before you go,
For Van's sake, Cheston, I've got 15 visits to make, including 2 carvings. Which means work, work, work. Something you wouldn't know much about.
Well, I'm just trying to tell you that my exams are coming up, but if you're not interested...
Exams? What exams?
My finals.
Oh.
Yes, it'll mean spending a fortnight or so in Edinburgh.
A fortnight, in heaven's name, Tristan. Why didn't you tell me?
Well, I've been trying to.
It's a fine time to start taking exams. James off honeymooning, you getting about in Edinburgh. How on earth am I going to manage here?
Well, James will be back by then. Anyway, you've got plenty of time to arrange for someone to take my place.
Oh, I suppose so. I take it you prepared for these exams?
I think so.
I've seen precious little evidence of it.
Well, I've been beavering away in my spare time, you know.
I don't. In any case, we'll soon find out. From tomorrow on, I'm going to put you through an intensive course of revision.
That's awfully kind of you, Siegfried. It's not really my way of working, though.
Really, I'd say your way of working was one of the great unsolved mysteries of our times. You intend to succeed, don't you?
Well, of course.
Then succeed you shall, my boy. Right, leave it all to me. Goodbye.
Mr. Harriet.
Morning, Mrs. Allen. Something the matter, Mrs. Allen?
It's just that I didn't expect you.
Oh, why's that?
Well, Mr. Farnan said you were getting wed this week.
That's right. We were married a few days ago. This is Helen, my wife.
Pleased to meet you, lass. It's about time this young fella got taken in hand. Are you from these parts?
Almost, Mrs. Allen. Heston Grange over Ellsdale Way.
Well, I never. An Ellsdale lass is more than he deserves, I'm sure.
Nothing but the best, Mrs. Allen. Anyway, I've come to read the test that Mr. Farnan did on your cars.
Read the tests, Mr. Elliot.
That's right.
Read tests? Muck about with cows on your honeymoon?
Oh, work stops for no man. At least not for us vets.
Aye, but not on poor lass's honeymoon.
Oh, don't worry about her, Mrs. Allen. She'll do as she's told. If she knows what's good for her.
Got yourself a rum un there, lass.
Oh, don't you worry about him, Mrs. Allen. I'll soon sort him out.
Well, we better get on with the job, I think.
Well, if you two will just wait here, I'll see if I can find my man.
That was wicked.
What was?
Teasing Mrs. Allen like that.
Well, there's no teasing about it. Now, you promised to love, honour, and obey. Well, that's precisely what you'll do. Especially the obey bit.
I'll consider it, providing you agree to keep your part of the deal.
Ah, what's that?
To cherish, protect, and worship.
Oh, that's no problem. I'll show you.
James, not here.
Now, Mr. Allen, just come to read the tests on the cows.
Oh, aye.
Yes. And I brought the wife along to give me a hand. Helen, that's Mr. Allen, and that's Jack and Robbie there.
Hello.
Well, if you and Mrs. Vintner is ready, you'll find cows through Bottom Field.
Right. Well, we'll get on with it then.
Right then, now. Fractures of special parts, the second phalanx.
The second phalanx.
You heard. And include in your answer fractures of the coffin and navicular bones, please.
Coffin and navicular, yes.
Well?
I'm just collecting my thoughts, Siegfried.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Well, don't be so impatient.
Impatient? Me? I've
And
spent
don't
the
lose your
entire...
temper again. It spoils my concentration.
Then, for the Lord's sake, stop behaving like an invincible ignoramus and get on with it.
Look, I didn't ask for this inquisition, you know.
I see. That's gratitude for getting your adult wits moving. Either we take this test exactly like the real thing, or we pack it in this very minute.
I'm sorry, Siegfried. It's just a bad case of prefrontal nerves, you see.
Well. Of course, I understand.
But I'll be all right on the day, I'm
All
sure.
right, come on. Get on with it. Fractures of the second phalanx, including the coffin and the navicular.
Yes. Fractures of these bones are rare, correct?
More explicit, please.
Yes, caused by direct violence or... yes, following a neurectomy.
Excellent. Now then, explain, please, what you know of Listerella monocytogenes.
Listerella monocytogenes.
Must you repeat everything I say? It's an intensely irritating habit, and not one which will endear you to the examiners.
Well, hang it all, Siegfried, I'm not a machine. It's just me thinking out loud, you see?
Tip 185, always think silently, silently. Otherwise they'll fail you out of sheer bad temper.
I've got it!
Eureka.
Listerella monocytogenes causes listeriosis.
Proceed.
Yes, attacks rodents, ruminants, poultry, pigs, and...
You see, you're doing it again.
Wait, yes, it also attacks man.
Precisely how I feel. Result?
Causes encephalitis, encephalitis and abortion in cattle and sheep.
And...
Wait, yes, meningitis in man.
The Lord be praised.
Well, it's not the sort of information you can roll off at the drop of a hat, is it?
It might be if you spent more time with your books and less with the bottle. Continue, please.
You mean there's something else I should know?
My dear boy, you've just touched the surface. A little knowledge is more dangerous than none at all.
Well, what else do you want to know?
1, seasonal occurrence. 2, means of infection. 3, treatment. Proceed.
Listeriosis occurs...
Well,
hang on. Is it spring and summer?
Spring and winter. Oh, winter.
Spring and winter, that's what I meant.
Say, for heaven's sake, say what you mean. Now, how's the infection spread? And get a move on. Examiners wait for no man.
Infection spreads through milk, urine, feces, aborted fetus.
Treatment, quickly, quickly.
Treatment, treatment!
If you repeat that word again, it's precisely what you need.
But there is none.
Then, for the Lord's sake, Say so!
There is no known treatment for listeriosis.
Heaven help the examiner. Helen! James, welcome, welcome home. Helen, my dear, you look simply ravishing. James, may I?
Of course.
Thank you, Siegfried. Well, we've had a wonderful time.
You did?
It's all right, was it, old chap? I wouldn't have swapped it for all the sun in the Mediterranean, thank you.
James, how did it go?
Well, Mrs. Vitney and I here, we took it all in our stride. We got rid of all the herds on the list.
Marvellous. I'd never have coped without you. I've kept a bottle of malt specially for this occasion.
Oh, yes, please.
Tristan, perhaps you'd be kind enough to fetch it for us, would you?
I think we should unpack first, James.
All right.
Well, the farmers gave us enough perishable wedding gifts to keep the household going for a month.
Excellent, all helps.
Well, I'll get the stuff out of the car, shall I?
Tristan, perhaps you'd help with that, would you? I'd like a quiet word with James here, if I may.
After you, Mrs. Herrick.
You're so kind, Mr. Partner.
I'm perfectly sure you know where I've hidden that bottle of malt. James?
Yes.
James, I confess I feel guilty about this whole tuberculin testing affair.
Well, don't. We were willing volunteers, you know.
Yes, I know, but, well, I feel deeply grateful, and I shan't forget your sacrifice.
Look, Helen and I could have been mining salt in Siberia for all we can.
Then let's call the matter closed.
Exactly. Secret, there is just one thing that we should mention.
Yes, James.
The partnership.
What about it?
Well, it was a marvellously generous gesture, and I'm deeply grateful, but you did rather spring it on me. Shouldn't we have discussed it first?
What not for? 'Tis what you wanted, isn't it?
Oh, yes, but more than I expected, much more. Are you sure in your own mind that you've done the right thing?
Let me ask you a question, James. Are you sure that it's really what you want? I mean, everything that goes with being a partner in an impoverished country practice. Long hours, actual hardships, practically non-existent social life.
You've forgotten the compensation,
What
Siegfried.
about the money, James? If you've any visions of wealth, forget them. You and I are never going to make ourselves rich men not doing the jobs we're doing.
Look, I know there are easier ways of making a living, but I'll take my chances with what I've got.
Well, maybe you think like that now, but think ahead, James. I mean, at the best, if you can persuade people to pay their bills, you may make a halfway decent living for yourself and for Helen, but at the worst, at times like now, with millions of people out of work and in real need, well, if you can just manage to keep your head above water...
Well, it's true, but the work's got to be done, and I happen to like doing it.
Why? Gratitude? Not all folk think of us as knights in shining armour, you know, James. No, a lot of people think we're expensive layabouts, parasites on the agricultural community. And after all, we are only of use to these people when things go wrong for them.
Look, I agree we are a necessary evil, but they need us as much as we need them. I don't give a damn what people think of me personally. I mean, it's jolly nice to be appreciated and all that. But my satisfaction comes from doing the job to the best of my ability with the means at my disposal. Well, perhaps that's part of the fascination, too.
Yes, I know that, James. That's mainly why I made you my partner.
Well, thank you, Siegfried.
No, don't think it less a gift, more a burden to be shared.
You're impossible.
Amen.
Come and get it.
Oh, come on.
Thank you.
Adios. Welcome home.
Mrs. Hall! Where shall I dump this lot?
Leave him in basket. I'll burn him later.
Right.
I've been at Mr. Farnham for years to let me clear that much.
I think we're winning now.
Good day to you, ladies.
Mr. Farnham?
Siegfried, do you want to check my new filing system?
What's she up to now? Excellent, excellent.
Well, don't you think you should check?
No, but yet it's all in your capable hands. Now, where's James?
In the surgery.
Right, thank you. Come along for the games. James, there you are. James, do you know Angus Greer, the vet over at Broughton?
Heard of him?
I want you to take this little cat to him. It was his case before the owner moved into our district.
What's the matter with it?
Gladstone's job. Needs an immediate op. And I wouldn't like Greer to think that we were poaching his territory.
Fair enough.
Now, you'll find Angus Greer quite an amusing old bird to meet. He's a good vet, but my touchy where youngsters like yourself are concerned. Yes, I think you might have quite an interesting experience.
Ready for us, Mr.?
Get down to it.
Give me 5 minutes to say goodbye with you.
Fine. I'll get the car ready.
You're off there, Mr. Tristan.
To Edinburgh, Mrs. Hall. Have to take my finals there.
You reckon we're going to have another veteran in the family soon, do you?
Well, that's the general idea, yes.
Well, I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Mrs. Hall.
You're annoying.
Well, I'm off. Take care, Siegfried.
So you are. Got everything you need, have you?
Yes, thanks.
Got digs arranged and such?
It's all fixed up.
Uh-huh. A little something to smooth the journey for you.
That's awfully kind of you, Siegfried. Really, I don't...
You'll miss your train, won't
yes,
you?
but I...
Well, goodbye. Good luck.
Thank you.
Mr. Greer?
You'll be Harriet.
Yes.
Come in, laddie.
Thank you.
That's Clinton yonder, second-year student.
Hello.
Right pansy-looking lot we're getting in the profession these days, eh, Harriet?
How long have you been here, Mr. Clinton?
I've been seeing practice over a month now.
He's away home tomorrow, wasting his time when he could be learning the ropes here.
Then it's back to college, is it?
No, not right away. I promised my mother I'd spend a few days at home.
Can't stay away from the titty, can you, Clinton? Well, don't stand there. Prepare the animal for surgery. Yes, Edna.
Keep telling him, but does he listen? Oh, no. Day in, day out, I
What
tell
are you
him.
blethering about, woman?
Fires left burning all day, nothing ever done right. Waste and yet more waste. Day in, day out.
Will you not be ridiculous, Edna, and put that fire back on? Damn it, it's cold in here.
Maybe cold as he calls it, but that's no excuse. Fires burning all day, telephone going non-stop, food eaten day in, day out. Where's it all going to end, I
Really,
ask you?
Edna, this is not the time.
And that young man,
Me, Mrs. Greer?
What have you been up to, Clinton?
reading in bed late at night, lights burning, papers rustling, night after
I
night.
thought I warned you about that, Clinton.
I do have to swap, Mrs. Greer.
He may have to swat, as he calls it, but who has to pay the bill? Who has to make the sums balance at the end of the month? I don't know.
That's James Harriet, Edna. He's in the profession. Mr. Farnham's partner from Darrowby.
Hello, Mrs. Greer.
Pleased to meet him, I'm sure.
And now, if you'll leave us, Edna, we've work to do. We mustn't waste good working time, must we?
No, will you watch fires?
Yes, yes.
And only dispense what is necessary.
Just leave it all to me, Edna. Clinton! I told you to prepare that animal. Now do as I say to you.
Yes, Mr. Greer.
Married, are you, Harriet?
Yes.
Aye. A man needs the support of a sound and reliable wife in this profession.
Oh, I'll go along with that, Mr. Greer.
Been with Farnham long, have you?
Well,
Buy your way into the partnership, did you?
That wasn't necessary.
Cunning young devil and no mistake, aren't you?
I'm not quite with you, Mr. Gray.
Aye, I've had clever young fellas like you here trying to smarm their way into the practice, but I'm no Siegfried Farnan, you know.
Oh, that's quite obvious, Mr. Gray.
Don't you get smart with me, laddie.
Ready for surgery, Mr. Gray?
Aye. Right time. Care to watch, would you?
Yes, if that's all right.
Then watch closely, keep your mouth shut, and you might learn something. Right you are, Clinton. Put your lily white hands to work and clean that lot up. Me and Harriet have other things to do.
I ought to get back to Derby, really, Mr. Gray.
Ah, you'll not want to move the animal till it comes to, will you?
No, of course not.
And we can't have you idling around the surgery. Or is that the way you do things at Derby?
What is it you'd like me to do, Mr. Gray?
I've got a pretty tricky bit of business coming up on one of the outlying farms.
Oh, in that case, of course I'll come.
Good lad.
What's the problem?
I got a cow that's doing poorly. Bad case of retained afterbirth.
That's a one-man job, isn't it, Mr. Gray?
I wouldn't ask for your help, laddie, if I didn't need you. Would I?
Well, if you're sure you need me, but I don't have any gear, and I'm not really dressed for the job.
Just remember, I've got something you can put on.
Ah.
You'll find your gear in the back.
There's nothing in the back, Mr. Gray.
Open the box, laddie. It's a carving outfit. I got it a while back, just right for this kind of job.
Pretty heavy, isn't it?
Oh, might heavy, but it'll keep me grand and clean. Now stop fussing and get into it. I'll call you when I want you.
Good evening, Mr. Greer.
Aye. How is she, Mr. Adderley?
She'll not be much use to her cuff till you get her up and about.
Ah, don't worry, soon have her to rights. I've even brought along a colleague of mine, a specialist in these matters.
Another specialist, eh?
Close. Close. Damn it. We're about ready for the specialist, Mr. Adderley. Give him a shout, would you?
Hello. You're wanted in here, mister.
Snug, are you, Harriet?
It's a bit too snug, Mr. Greer.
What do you think of my colleague here, Mr. Adderley?
I've not seen out like it before.
This specialist fellow looks like business, Mr. Greer.
I totally consider yourself privileged to see modern veterinary practice at work.
Progress, Mr. Greer. It's amazing. What you chaps will come up with next.
This smart fella has come here to show an old-fashioned dodderer like me how to attend your cows. Am I right, Harriet?
Just tell me what you want me to do, Mr. Greer. This suit's none too comfortable, you know.
Right you are, Harriet. If you'd be so kind as to pass yon pessary now.
Pass yon pessary?
Aye, the P-E-S-S-A-R-Y, if you please.
I do know what a pessary is, Mr. Greer.
And pass it, laddie, if you don't mind.
Ain't that something?
Tolly, Mr. Adderley, kindly assist Mr. Harriet to his feet, if you will.
Thank you.
And now the pessary, if you please, Harriet.
Thank you.
Kind of you, Harriet. Aye, most kind.
What else do you want me to do, Mr. Greer?
Do? I don't take your meaning, laddie.
Well, you've got me into this, this thing for some reason, haven't you?
Aye, so I have. And you've done it. Thank you, laddie. Thank you kindly for your expert help.
Come on. Here.
Double bezique.
I was wondering where those cards were hiding.
Well, now you know.
Why on earth didn't you declare them separately?
Because I rather wanted to see your face when I put them all down at once.
If I realised James was going to marry a sadist,
Another 500 points, if you please.
Of course, you realise from now on I shall show no mercy.
Must be James.
I don't mind, I can wait.
Oh, my darling.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now then, James. How was your day with Greer?
That vindictive old devil. I don't want to talk about him.
Didn't hit it off, eh?
You knew very well I wouldn't. Why didn't you tell me what an old crank he was?
Well, I did warn you that he had a rather odd attitude towards younger colleagues.
Oh, the understatement of the year. If there is a hell for young vets, it must surely be working for Angus Greer. If I never see him again, it'll be too soon, I can tell you.
Never mind, James. Another thread in the tapestry of your life. Have a glass of whiskey, have a glass of sherry.
Thank you. You're looking extremely pleased with yourself, Siegfried.
Well, it can't be his good fortune at Bezique.
Huh?
I just thrashed him.
Don't be allowing her the illusion of victory. As a gentleman, sure. In fact, my mind's on other matters, to be precise. On Tristan's replacement.
Oh, yes, I meant to ask you about that. With Tristan here, we were pretty hard pushed. But with him gone, it'll be murder.
Precisely my feelings, James.
Huh?
That's precisely why I've done something about it. We're going to have a student here while he's away. Helen, have you seen that letter lately?
It's in the ministry file. Not current.
I said, James, your wife shows the most remarkable talent for organisation. I don't know when all our paperwork's been in such good order. Yes, it is. Now then, he's a young fellow called Carmody, Richard Carmody. Wilson, the ministry man, recommends him very highly.
Any experience of rural work?
No, just town and mixed. But he seems a bright lad, final year London, all that sort of thing. Anyway, he arrives tomorrow.
And he wants picking up at the station?
No. That fact he doesn't. He's booked into the Reniston for the duration.
The Reniston? Now, what sort of a student can afford to stay in a place like that?
Obviously, they're ordinary ones.
Good morning. My name is Carmody.
Oh, Mr. Carmody, won't you come in?
Thank you.
I'm Mrs. Harriet. Mr. Farner and my husband are expecting you. Siegfried,
Yes.
please. Richard Carmody is here.
Ah! Well done. Siegfried Farnan, how do you do?
Mr. Farnham.
This is my partner, James Harriet.
Hello, Carmody.
Well, all settled in, I trust.
Quite settled in, thank you.
How are you finding the Reniston?
It serves its purpose, Mr. Harriet.
Well, I'm sure you'll enjoy your stay here.
I think so.
Good. Excellent. Well, I'm delighted to have met you, Carmody. I must be off, so I leave my colleague to show you the ropes.
Of course, Mr. Farnham.
Yes. Goodbye.
Bye. I gather this is the first time you've seen country work.
Not quite. I spend most summers on the family estates in Berkshire.
And Berkshire is hardly the Yorkshire Dales.
Obviously. However, one farm is pretty much like another, in terms of work, that is.
Perhaps. Anyway, this is the surgery.
So I see.
Instrument cupboard there.
Yes, quite.
And we do our dispensing here.
Adrivan.
Yes.
Still using this stuff?
It's the best thing we've got for worms in horses.
How odd. I thought the new compounds had made it extinct.
And new compounds cost about 5 times as much. To farmers around here, money is the most important consideration.
Quite. Well, Mr. Harriet, I trust our little tour of inspection is over. So when do we commence work?
Morning surgery starts in about half an hour.
Small animal stuff?
Yes.
I was hoping to concentrate on rather larger work.
Oh, don't worry, Carmody. You'll see plenty of that. You'll need protective clothing.
Yes, quite.
Galoshes are not exactly the most efficient for this kind of work, you know.
I'll manage, Mr. Harriet.
Suit yourself. Hello, Mr. Earnshaw.
Oh, afternoon, Veterinary. Your little fella's been limping somewhat bad.
He's got joint ill. It's an infection they get through the navel soon after birth.
Yeah, reckon you can fix him up, do you?
Well, we've caught it in plenty of time, Mr. Earnshaw. I'm sure he'll be fine. Just get my things from the car. Excuse me. Here you are, Mr. Earnshaw. One of those 3 times a day.
Right.
She's gone down to Nick ever since she carved, Mr. Elliot. I reckon myself she's fit for naught but dog meat.
Yeah, she looks bad, all right. And keeping her in conditions like that doesn't exactly help, does it?
I can't keep with to the beast, can I? Not if she's got TB or something catching.
Well, let's have a look at it. Started going off a cake first, did she?
Aye, that's right.
Lost weight pretty rapidly?
Never seen a cow go down so fast.
I see. Well, you can stop worrying, Mr. Smith. Your cow's got nothing infectious. It's slow fever.
Is it, big gaw?
Had a David, I see.
You could say that, yes.
How did you find it, comedy?
Quite interesting, Mr. Farnan.
A far cry, I imagine, from the sort of work you're used to, isn't it?
Not so much the work, more the approach to it I find intriguing.
Oh, in what way?
Perhaps this is not the time or place to go into it.
Now, speak up, comedy. Praise or criticism are all elected arts, aren't they, Jed?
Yes, of course.
As a matter of fact, there were 1 or 2 points I'd like to clear up.
What points?
Excuse me a moment. That calf we saw today, Mr. Harriet.
Mr. Earnshaw, what about it?
You diagnosed joint ill, I think.
Yes.
You were mistaken.
How do you make that out?
There was only one joint involved, the knee.
Well, that's all it usually takes.
Perhaps, but the navel was dry. No pain or swelling there.
So what is your diagnosis, then?
Obviously a sprained knee.
Now, the calf's temperature was 105. That's a little high for a sprained knee, wouldn't you say?
Yes, but James, did you check for any other signs of infection?
No, it wasn't necessary.
The point is that calf could have had only one of 100 things wrong with it, apart from the joint ill, which might explain its high temperature. But I'm sure Mr. Harriet and I can agree to differ.
Yes, of course you can. Well, I'd call round 1 even. Now, anything else, comedy?
But just one more point.
Oh, yes?
That cow of Mr. Smith's.
Mm-hmm.
You said it had contracted, what was it? Ah, yes, slow fever.
Yes.
I take it you meant acetonemia.
That's exactly what I meant. Slow fever is the local name for it.
So I gathered. Acetonemia happens to be one of my areas of interest. Thus, I was wondering whether you come to any conclusions as to its causes.
Well, obviously it had to do with liver dysfunction.
Yes, but it's what causes that dysfunction that interests me.
Siegfried is the theorist around here, aren't you?
What? Well, quite. Yes, acetonemia. Well, I agree really with what James said. And the fact that it occurs mainly in cattle within 3 weeks of calving is significant. But as to the causes of the failure...
I'd be interested to hear what you have to say, Mr. Carmody.
As a matter of fact, I can't make up my mind which theory I endorse at the moment. Stevens maintains it is complete oxidization of the fatty acids. Schonemer leans towards liver intoxication. My own view is that if we can pinpoint the exact cause of the production of the diacetic and beta-oxybutyric acids in the metabolism, we'll be well on the way to solving the problem. Do you agree? Yes. Well, that's all my notes for the moment. So, if you excuse me, I've arranged to dine at the Reniston. Good night, gentlemen.